good, everybody? Welcome into the final playoff edition of Betting the PFL, brought to you as always by DraftKings Sportsbook. I, of course, am the coach. My partner is Ian Parker. And Ian, you've had a pretty good 2-week run. Before we get into the Featherweights and the Welterweights, how have you felt the PFL playoffs have gone so far? You were on site last week.
You know what? We're seeing some new faces really step up. Rob Wilkinson's out. He was expected to go as far to the finals. You know, we saw a really competitive fight. I think a lot of these guys are stepping it up. Everyone, the advice I can give to the fighters for the next round, leave it all out there. Don't have any hesitation. Just go for it. Fight the way you did in the first 2 fights of the PFL, because that is what got you to the playoffs.
Yeah, the crowds have been great. The emotion has been great. And as we fast forward and look at this Friday, August 23rd, we're going live to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It all starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern with the pre-fight show. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus is the early card, and then 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Let's look at that early card first, Ian. There's some familiar names here. What's a couple of things that pop off to you?
Well, look, you got a guy in Tyler Diamond. Excited to see him back. He's been in the season before. He's been in some showcase fights. It's really showed out. And you got legendary PFL OG Ray Cooper. And for me, this is sink or swim for Ray Cooper. So we'll see how he does. He's got a very tough opponent ahead of him.
There is so much competition now to get into the PFL that just because you have a big name does not mean you're necessarily going to be picked up for 2025. Now, the main card, 10 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. And when you look at records, maybe no more competitive than what we have here in the featherweight division and the welterweight division. What sticks out to you here?
You know what? The lack of redundancy in a good way, Coach. We have a lot of new guys that showed out early on, so we may see a new champ this year. You have someone in Brendan Loughnane who's returning. He wants to make up for last year, what happened with him. Very curious. Let's see if there's a changing of the guard. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, you got some guys that have qualified, or a guy that is qualified, unable to get there. So you wonder if now having that opportunity will really motivate them to perform at an ultra high level. Now, let's talk about the main event for a second, because 2 years ago, Brendan Loughnane was on top of the world. 2022, he was the champ. Then in 2023, he didn't even get there. What makes Brendan Loughnane such a dynamic striker?
It's his footwork. It's his in and out movement. He also has a very high level IQ. He did get caught by Jesus Pinedo, but it doesn't happen very often. I think it was actually the first time he's been finished in his whole career. So for Loughnane, it's constant movement. It's keeping his opponent guessing and just never fighting the same. He always has a different strategy. Very, very brilliant, very smart. That's what makes him special.
We will have picks on every single main event or main card fight coming up in just a little bit here on Betting the PFL. But let's transition back to the early card, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. And one fight I really want to zone in on, Tyler Diamond and Enrique Barzola. Now, for Diamond, he has 2 straight PFL wins. He'd love, Ian, to make it 3.
I think Tyler Diamond, stylistically, this works for him. You know, he's been in fights where he's gone against guys with good defensive takedown defense, good strikers. He has that in Barzola, but where Barzola is really good, Tyler Diamond's better. Tyler Diamond, I believe, is the better wrestler. I think they're both very durable guys. But what we've seen out of Tyler Diamond this season, his striking has improved. If he could actually strike from a distance, set up his wrestling, and keep Barzola on his back foot, I think he gets another win here and possibly a ticket into next season.
Yeah, that's always what these guys are thinking. They're always looking ahead to how can I be a part of the regular season, which you need to be ultimately to fight for the $1 million at the end of the year. Now, it's just kind of part of what happens in MMA, Ian. You've got some matchups, but maybe the numbers aren't where you can play them straight. We like to talk about minus 200 here in our world. But then when you put a couple of names together, you can bring that number down to something you can play. Here on the early card, I know you got 2 names that you like. We put them together. We like it a lot. What are they?
Yeah, I like Pulisic, I like Brzakov here against their opponents, especially Brzakov against Ray Cooper. Both guys got a minus 200 and a minus 400 here. Coach, we're going to put them together. We're going to get around the minus 150 number. That's of right now. And normally, we don't even really love that for the parlay odds. But I don't think either one has a problem getting it done. And I'd rather lay that type of number and expect both guys to win when they should than risk so much more, which is such less value.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Putting two together, especially in MMA, it's so much different than football or basketball or even baseball. So that's the early card, something you can sink your teeth into. And do not forget on the pre-fight show, anything that pops off to Ian or comes around by Friday night, we'll of course insert it into that fight show because we're always taking care of you guys at home. Now back to the main card. All four fights, they're going to mean everything. Four fighters that will move on in to fight for $1 million come November. Now, the first fight, you don't want to tune in late. 10 p.m. Eastern, so about 10:02, we're going to have fighters in the smart cage. Shamil Musayev, Murad Ramazanov. Now, when you look at these two and you see what Musayev has always been about, he never has tasted defeat. Does he on Friday night?
He does not. And coach, he was our underdog in the night in this exact same matchup earlier in the season. This time he's a heavier favorite and he's going for the knockout again. He knocked out Logan Storley where he was the underdog and he knocked out his opponent. We're going to ride that train here. We're going to take him to win by TKO or KO. His opponent's a good wrestler, but if he can't take him down, he's got to stand. And his striking, I hate to say this, when you're that good of a dominant wrestler and it works for so long that you use your striking just for that, but then when you're forced to box against a guy who could do it just as well, if not better, that's when you're in trouble. Musayev, again, by TKO or KO. We're going to ride this till the wheels fall off.
You're damn right. All the way to the pay window, big boy. Now, if Ian's right, and most of the time when you're talking about the PFL, he is, then that fighter will face the winner of our co-main event of the evening, Umlatov and Gracie. And in Umlatov, you've got another fighter who's been unbelievably successful. What do you see in this co-main event?
You know what? When it comes to Gracie, he looked terrible in his first fight, but then his second fight against Don Madge, he showed up, and that was the Neiman Gracie that we're used to seeing that had success in Bellator, but he's fighting a guy in Umalatov that has been destined to win this season, minus having issues every time he gets to the playoffs and be able to actually fight. The fact that he is going to show up, weigh in, and do it, Umalatov is going to get the win here. He's much better on the feet, carries tremendous power, good wrestling. Umultov by TKO or KO. We got these props going as our main picks, and I'm not scared in the slightest bit.
Ian, you've never been scared. You've never been scared of anything when it comes to betting the PFL. Now, there's going to be some people out there like, hey, coach, I need a little bit more. I need a little more hype. We're always going the extra mile here at betting the PFL. If you're not all about Umlatov and Gracie, oh, now you will be.
This guy is the next big thing. A lot of folks think he'll be taking home $1 million check. Oh, nice little back fist there by Umlatov. That rocked out. Oh, right hand! Neiman Gracie, former Bellator welterweight title challenger. The right hand breaks it. Chasing a $1 million championship. Oh! Flying armbar. Gracie once again, the takedown. And here's a leg lock knee bar. Gracie spent this fight on top. Umlatov able to drag Ward to the mat again.
Front choke. He's got an arm in guillotine. That's locked on very tight.
There's the tap.
There's a tap.
Magomed Umlatov in the first round and clinches a playoff spot. Oh boy! My goodness, what a knockout.
Well, there's only one place, DraftKings Sportsbook. Because in the PFL Smart Cage, well, guess what? Any fight can end just like that. And that's exactly what DraftKings' latest offer is. Just that fast. New customers bet $5 tonight and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and claim $200 in bonus bets when you make your first $5 bet. Life's more fun when you're in on the action. The crown is yours. Let's transition now to the featherweights, Ian, and I could not be more excited for these four fighters in these two big-time fights. Let's start with Braga and Israev. Now, combined between the two of them, one loss. Braga last year in the finals, he's 14-1. Israev is undefeated, 16-0. I don't envy you. Where are we going?
I'm going to lean Israev here. The number's a little high for the money line. As of right now, it's floating between, I think, -3 and 400, which I'm a little surprised about because Braga is a very complete fighter, very composed, but the biggest difference will be the grappling of Israev, and I think that's where we're going to go here. Although Braga was finished by Jesus Pinedo in the finals last year in his lone loss, I don't see that happening as often, so we're going to go with Israev to win by decision. So look for that prop when it comes out. I think you may get anywhere from a -110 to a +120 on that prop. way better than -3 or -400.
There is no doubt about that. So Israev, he's the second fight on the main card. So he'll be sitting there waiting, according to Ian Parker, for the main event of the evening. Kai Kamaka and Brendan Loughnane. Now, 2 years ago, it was all about Loughnane. He had his entire home country having his back. But then last year, it didn't pan out. And we say it all the time. You got to show up and you got to show out. Ian, I love it when we have a big-time name like a Loughnane who's going against somebody new to the PFL audience as far as going head-to-head, because this is going to be such a fresh fight. And for Loughnane, he has a lot to prove after not making it last year. How do you see this one going?
You know, if you asked me after the first fight, I would have said that this fight's going to be way closer than what the odds are saying, with Brendan Loughnane being over -400 as the favorite here on the money line, because Kai Kamaka showed out in that first fight against Bubba Jenkins. He looked fantastic. But then in the second fight, he didn't look as good. I don't know if he got too comfortable, too cocky, or maybe his opponent just threw him off a little bit, because Kamaka is extremely durable, carries power, very quick, and he's good everywhere too. But I think Loughnane has fought higher level competition. I think he's just a little bit faster, a little bit smarter. I don't think a finish happens here, so we're going to go with Loughnane by decision. And I know how much you hate those, and I understand. Me too. We want finish after finish. But from a betting perspective, it just makes the most sense. And we're going to get a good line there too. So we're going to go with Loughnane by decision.
Yeah, and the playoffs are a completely different mentality than what the regular season fight were when you've got the points as an incentive. But we're seeing a lot of props here in this show. And one thing that can bring a straight bet down is putting players together, fighters together, and making a much better number. It's time for Parker's Parlay. What 4 names are you looking at? You put them together, and it's a number that I can sink my teeth into.
Coach, I want to keep this streak going. If my math is correct, we've only missed a one Parker's Parlay this entire season and playoffs so far. So let's keep it going. Brendan Loughnane, Musayev, Umalatov, and Hizraev. Put those 4 together. We're going to get plus odds. It's not going to be pretty, but as you say, as long as we're cashing and taking it to the window, it does not matter.
Yeah, as long as we're cashing and not asking you to spell those names, then we're going to be just okay here on Betting the PFL. Now, the final thing, the way we like to bring it home, is for something bold, a bold prediction that maybe people aren't seeing, but the duck is. What is it?
We're going to go back to Umalatov here. You know, over the last few seasons, he's had a lot of finishes in round 1. And someone in Neiman Gracie, when they get hit, they go to their back and they try to work their jiu-jitsu. Umalatov is going to say, no, sir, stand up so I can knock you back down and send you to the shadow realm. We're going with Umalatov, round 1, TKO or KO. Let's do it.
Oh, I can't wait to root for that and for all these other picks. Remember, we will update everything as we get closer to fight night. And, of course, on the pre-fight show at 6:30, special start time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. And then the early card on Friday, this Friday, August 23rd, live from Washington, D.C. at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then the 4 main card fights. 4 winners will move on to fight for $1 million in November. That starts at 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN+. For Ian Parker, I'm the coach. This has been Betting the PFL, brought to you, as always, by DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll see you live on Friday night.